get it. That would go backwards.
Yeah, I guess it is. You can also, look at your pictures, just like a real operating system. It's got all the different kinds of little utilities, but these are all handcrafted by a kid. And these are the images that they wanted to have on their operating system. And of course, there's the documents section in which there's a document called blah, and it just says blah, 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 blah. We all have this document on our computers, right? So it's, it's pretty much a straight copy of a real OS. And then down there's Internet Discoverer. I guess they were worried about patent lawsuits. It turns out lots of people wanted to make these OS projects. This is a gallery filled with them, and there's about 8 pages the same size of different operating system projects that were created by kids. Again, we didn't encourage this, they just wanted to do it, and so we let them. We were like, great, go for it. This is one of the more recent Scratch OSs that actually can have persistent information. So they figured out a way to store the user login, the positions of windows, and all the different kinds of tracking that you have to do to manage a real operating system in this operating system, so you can actually log in and it will remember all of your settings that you created from before. This is not something we built and we designed for at all. This was just a complete extension. So there's like a music program. As you can see, it's got this really blinged out, beautiful interface, and it's very complex.
Sorry, so the OS actually has text processing, or Scratch actually has text processing capability. It's not just.
You can put some text in there, kind of, but I'll explain in a minute. Okay. So one of the gnarliest things about this, though, is that it didn't just end with SynOS, right? So it's not just, oh, it's a cute operating system. They actually figured out a way to make applications for it. So you can make an application in another Scratch project, import it into the OS project, and install the OS. I mean, this is, again, this is not what this programming language we were thinking of or was designed for, but they figured out a way. And of course, you need an SDK if you're going to do that. So here's a tutorial project that shows how to download it, what kind of stuff you have to do to make an application, and it's amazing. I mean, it's really complex code is here. It's about 8 steps. It probably would have been easier to do this in another programming language than Scratch, but this is where they were, so that's what they wanted to do. So that's one of the more recent kind of exciting developments, is that they've gotten really into OSs. But you can also, not only can you modify all Scratch projects, though, you can also modify Scratch itself, because it's, of course, open source. And so what we found was a lot of people who got on sort of the bleeding edge of complexity of what you could make with Scratch said, hey, this doesn't let me do something I really want to do. And usually it's something that we didn't put in there because we wanted to keep it really, really simple for the new user. But we said, hey, the code's out there, go for it, do whatever you want. And so they did. And this is Panther. This is one that was made by a 12-year-old kid in Waltham, Massachusetts. And so it has its own entire website that supports Panther. It has tutorials. It has the different programs that people have made in Panther. And this is going to show a little bit of a video of what happens in Panther. As you can see, it's got this special logo. He implemented an entire file I/O system. All these blocks are made by him. I've never seen them before. I don't know how they work. But now you can save files and output files and edit files and all that sort of thing. He also added a way to create your own block, something that we were waiting till the next version of Scratch, but he was like, I'm not going to wait for that. I'm going to do it. And also there's a way to clone sprites, which normally in Scratch you can just have a certain amount of sprites. If you want to shoot a lot of them out of a gun, you can't just clone them. You just have to have most of the bullets already exist, but hide them. And in this version he said, no, I'm just going to make it so you can actually clone copies of these bullets and shoot them out of a gun. So this is just one example of one of the more kind of complex ways of extending Scratch by remixing the program itself. But there's really 3 or 4 or 5 other different versions of Scratch that were just created by the community. And it created this big sensation. Everybody wanted to make a different version of Scratch, just like everybody wanted to make an operating system project. How are you going to get 9, 10, 11-year-old kids to want to write operating system code? It's amazing. I mean, the answer is I don't think you can, but if they want to, then they're gonna. So I think that's one of the exciting things about Scratch. Not only with Panther can you do these extra features, you can also write your own block. So Scratch is based on the Squeak programming language, another open source language. And if you want to, you can dive down, figure out how to use Squeak, and create your own Scratch block that embodies a command that you wanted to see. Share it to the library, and then anybody that wants to can copy that block from the library into their version of Panther and use it and try it out. Have bugs, etc., and that sort of thing. So, in conclusion, I'm excited about Scratch. One of the reasons is because I love open source software, and I think it's amazing. And I think it's really empowering for people to have the chance to actually get into the tools that they're using, change them, modify them, create anything that they want. And so I'm happy that I get to work on a project that supports that. So thank you very much. And if there's any questions.
That looks cool, and I can't wait to get home and play with it.
Oh, great. It's free, by the way. I always forget to mention that. It's free. So if you just put Scratch into Google, that's usually the first link that'll come up.
The very first thing.
Yeah. And you click on it and download it, and it's all totally free. It's actually been used in a lot of schools, and if only we had a teacher around here who used it in the schools. I don't
But
know.
it's available cross-platform.
Ah, yes.
In my own school, we have primarily Linux computers, so I install it on that. But the older kids have OS 10 laptops, so we have it installed on that. And many of the same kids, as they get used to it, they install it on their Windows computers at home. So it's totally cross-platform, so the kids can use it no matter what. And if they do a project on one, they can open it up on the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Yep.
Can I throw in one story?
Yeah.
We taught it in a K-8 school, and one of the kids just went berserk, went home, downloaded it, created their own games and stuff like that, and about a month later, the technology person there was approached by the special ed person and said, I'm looking for software for this kid that needs to do this. I've got about $500. Do you know anything on the market? And he said, this is all it needs to do? She said, yeah. He said, all right, give me a week. Handed that specification to his 8th grader in the school who programmed it in Scratch, and they sort of solved their own problem internally. So this kid was beside himself, excited to have his real work back. So,
Wow.
Any other questions?
Awesome.
Yeah, you guys have done a lot of search on the community around that. Has any of the computer scientists at MIT discovered where these kids are doing object oriented or anything like that?
Discovered where they're doing what?
Are they exploring object oriented methods or actually diving into the CS at all?
Yeah, well, the kids that modify Scratch itself go into Squeak, and Squeak is object-oriented. So we know that they're kind of getting that concept. But with Scratch, object-oriented is kind of a tricky, notion to sort of convey. And we wanted to make it so easy for people who had no experience to dive in that we don't kind of emphasize that very much.
It's still iterative, basically.
It's still, sorry?
Iterative.
Yeah.
So, kind of go back to the question earlier.
Oh, yeah.
The text processing, like say I'm a kid and I want to type in some phrase and I want to write some kind of rule to convert it to big Latin.
Oh, nice. Yes, you can do that. It's not like the easiest thing, but actually people have made word processors, with Scratch. They don't actually print, but you can basically, write a document like that. And they have made different translators like that as well. In the last version, we added an ask block, so you can take in text input, load it into a variable or a list, and then process it based on any rules that you want to. So yeah, that sort of thing is definitely possible.
You can do a lot of challenge response stuff. You can actually do role-playing games where you can ask the question, and if the kid types this in, then this happens.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe like what Scratch is for because it's for so many things. It's like, it's for games, it's for animations, it's for kinds of story making that we never even would have imagined. So, I mean, that was one of our design principles, was really low floor, easy to sort of get into it, really high ceiling, so you could make really complex stuff, and really wide walls, which means that you can make anything that's interesting to you. It's not just restricted to sort of one genre.
They have a quote-unquote paint program built in, so you can actually paint your own flight stuff like that.
Yeah. Are we out of time? I don't want anybody to miss their Samsung tablet.
Just real quick, just out of curiosity, with the ongoing research, how do you guys deal with IRB? I mean, is that tough, or is it something that, do you know what I mean? Yeah, IRB is often tough. I mean, we definitely have to get approval. Like the quotes that I showed you, those were like, approved to do actual talking interviews with the parents. Well, first we had to talk to the parents. Hey, can we interview your kid about Scratch and that sort of thing. I mean, it's a process and it takes time, but we can get through it. Scratch is an anonymous website, so like people don't really put their names in. That kind of can help, but you still really have to be, you have to be careful when you're doing any kind of research.
Great, Amos, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
And everyone head back. I think we're having the Galaxy giveaway now.
Very much enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm glad.
Pointers to go look for some more things.
Oh, fantastic. Great, great.
I'm going to look into this day, May 21.
Yes, yeah. Just if you put Scratch Day into
possible.
Google. Yeah.
But I have found, I've never been an artist, but I have become such an enthusiastic art Mayor, because I do Archimedes Inspires. I'm in neural nets and that sort of area. That's what I did on programming. And now I'm making art that pleases me no end.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, you know the user Forrest on Scratch?
Yes.
She makes beautiful art too.
I've seen several.
Yeah, awesome.
Good job.
All right, thanks. Yeah.
I'll say, can parents go to the Scratch Ed site as well?
Absolutely,
Do you have to
yeah.
be